Hello everybody, my name is Kai, and welcome back to Warframe. Today we will be taking a look at the newest Warframe released with Citrine's last wish, Citrine. But before we get started, I would just like to remind everybody that I do have a Patreon now. Go check it out at the link in the description below if you would like to help support me and directly influence what gets made on the channel. And while you're down there, make sure you join my Discord too. A huge thanks to all of my supporters, the Mad Monk, Scotty Nose, Young Mung, and Bored Platypus. You guys are awesome and you're the ones who make this possible, and I literally cannot say thank you enough. Citrine is a support-based Warframe similar to the likes of Wisp or Trinity, yet I personally believe her to be the best in the game currently. She offers all of her teammates in affinity range with a 90% damage reduction, a status chance and duration buff, pretty much infinite energy, and the ability to make any weapon, yes even this Fenmore with negative crit chance, hit red crits with absolute ease. But there is so much more that she can do, starting off with her first ability, Fractured Blast. Fractured Blast will stagger enemies in a cone area for a short time and deal impact and slash damage, also proccing bleeds. Enemies hit by R1 are also marked with a crystal above their heads, which signifies that they have an increased chance of dropping health and energy orbs. Running at least 200% power strength makes the health orb drop chance a 100%, which synergizes perfectly with equilibrium and any type of flow mod, and even makes blind rage's negative 55 efficiency not a big deal because we have infinite energy. This is also Citrine's Helminth ability, which is really good because it opens up the door for many frames to have quick and easy energy generation. Now, because her first ability generates so many health orbs, it synergizes nicely with her passive, which gives you and nearby allies a 5 health regeneration per second. You can increase this by picking up more health orbs to a maximum of 25 per second, which you'll be doing often because again, her first ability at over 200% strength will always drop a health orb on kill. Citrine's second ability is Preserving Shell, where Citrine grants herself and nearby allies a shell that gives you damage reduction up to a cap of 90%. Now, this DR does not start at 90% for most Citrine builds. On this one it does, but it will also decay, and the only way to keep it up is by killing things, which is, well, something that you should always be doing pretty much. You can keep track of how much damage resistance you currently have alongside what your current health regeneration per second is by just looking at the graphic above your weapon's ammo counter. This is a really easy way to keep track of it, and on top of all of this, it also affects allies in affinity range, which is much larger than you can normally build for with range mods, and works the exact same way on allies, and can be refreshed while already active, meaning you can never lose your 90% DR if you pay attention. Citrine's third ability, Prismatic Gem, has Citrine spawn a gem that will target enemies you shoot with your own weapons and proc them with one of the 4 base status effects. It will shoot at individual enemies one at a time, although it does it relatively quick, it is kind of slow. Besides that, it also increases your weapon's status chance and status duration by significant amounts. And that is why I have decided to keep this ability on the main Citrine build that I'll be showing you today instead of Helminthing it off. The status chance buff that it provides is absolutely fantastic for weapons like the Phantasma, and while the auto priming is a little bit slow, it can actually kill things pretty decently with the build today, but we'll be getting to that in just a moment. The fourth ability on this Citrine build is Pillage, unsurprisingly. I've covered this a lot on the channel, so I'm just going to be assuming you already know how it works. But just in case you don't, a quick rundown: it is a shield and armor strip that also cleanses you of all status effects, which frees the build up from needing to use Rolling Guard. Taking a look at the actual Citrine build, we are going for a full strip 1-cast Pillage build. We achieved that pretty easily by using Corrosive Projection because normally Pillage requires 400% strength to do this, but Corrosive Projection brings down that requirement to only 328, which is very easy, or a lot easier to achieve, through the use of Blind Rage, Humble Intensify, Augur Secrets, and Multi-Augmented. Citrine can get away with the negative efficiency from Blind Rage because her first ability, paired with Equilibrium, Archon Flow, and the Synth mod on your Panther gives her practical infinite energy generation. Adding all of that up together when you have full multi-augmented stacks means you can cast Pillage once, and any enemy that you see while it is active will have all of their shields or armor stripped, which is obviously very powerful. For the rest of her abilities, we do build on some decent range. Now, her second ability scales off affinity range, so that's not important, but her first and third do want a little bit of range. The most that I could fit on this build was 145 comfortably, which gives you a 20 meter range on Fractured Blast, which is a cone AoE, so this is pretty good, and a 21 meter on Prismatic Gem. Now, this one could be buffed up a little bit, but then we would not be able to get the full strip of 1-cast in Pillage, so I decided to just leave it at 145. Adaptation is here because it stacks with the damage resistance that Preserving Shell gives and makes the overshields provided by Pillage last a lot longer, on top of this also giving you a shield gate. With this build, you practically take no damage at all. We also use Prime Continuity, so we don't need to recast these abilities as much, and it gives Pillage a wider range, while Preserving Shell does last longer, 38 seconds here, which is above the cap of what I deem to be a little bit too excessive to cast, even though you can recast this while it is already active. I find this build to be very strong on Citrine, as most frames cannot build for one cast Pillage build because it almost always requires Blind Rage, and negative efficiency is really not that common in Warframe, although with the addition of her first ability to the Helminth system, I think we might see it a lot more going forward, as Strength directly increases the chances of dropping health orbs, which when paired with Equilibrium, offsets the negative efficiency that it would give. But besides all that, Pillage makes all enemies like stupid easy to kill and gives you fantastic survivability because of the DR from her second ability and the DR of adaptation affecting the shields that it gives you, alongside it giving you a shield gate. The reason that I chose to Helminth off her fourth for Pillage is that a full strip build does not need the extra damage or CC that her fourth provides, as everything already dies really quickly. The priming crystal also is used, but that's mainly to help my Phantasma and Epitaph spit out lots of status numbers, which is something they both like to do, and less so to really prime things, although on the off chance it gets a kill with cold damage, Archon Flow will give you an energy orb. Not that your energy economy was really a problem in the first place though. The final note I will make for this build though is that casting speed is almost a necessity from either Matterize Power Transfer, Archon Shards, or Natural Talent. Personally, I like to use Matterize Power Transfer for casting speed, even though it does require you to go in and out of Operator. It's really quick and you don't need to use a mod slot, but I threw 2 Amber Archon Shards for casting speed on my Citrine just because it makes a huge difference in the fluidity of her gameplay. But if you're looking for a Citrine build that utilizes her fourth, look no further than this one, which makes use of the Ensnare Helminth ability. Her fourth ability sends out a wave of crystals that will CC enemies and spawn a crystal growth on them that when shot will give all weapons that shoot them a flat 300% critical chance, allowing literally any weapon in the game to hit red crits with ease. Pairing up this ability with Ensnare and a large projectile AoE weapon like the Ignis Wraith, Tenet Archiplasma, or Nadaruk, and red crits for days with no crit chance mods on the weapon. This build plays a little bit differently compared to the one using Pillage, as you practically need to hit enemies with your crystals and Ensnare to be able to kill them pretty quickly, and you also need to Ensnare enemies before you hit them with the crystals, or else you won't be able to move them if they're already encased in the crystals. But I do really enjoy this one. A difference between this build and the last one is that the damage of this one obviously goes a lot higher, but in return the survivability is just not as easy. On this build, you can die. Like, you can die if you're not paying attention, because you don't have the extra security that Pillage provides of being another layer of health and an extra shield gate. This one is a little bit more involved, but the numbers are also, large and red, which is very satisfying. And this is just another way to play Citrine compared to the other one, in case you would like a more active playstyle, although I find that she is pretty involved in general. Building for Ensnare, we want to emphasize more range than the previous build, so Ensnare can group up enemies a little bit better, which also benefits our Crystallize and our Fractured Blast, as you can prime enemies with this from farther away, and this has a crazy 70-meter range, which is wholly unnecessary, as you won't be casting it on things that far. Now, we aren't placing a huge emphasis on strength though, but we are still going above 200%, which gives us a 100% chance for health orb drops through the use of Growing Power and Multi-Augmented. You could swap your aura slot out for something else if you would like, and then just use the 15% strength mod in your Exilus slot, which would put you above 200%, but I haven't put one in here. You do need to use Rolling Guard because you don't have Pillage for the status cleanse, but besides that, the rest of the build is pretty similar. And then here is a quick No-Helminth build that is very similar to the other one. We still push ourselves to around 200% strength, but not over, by the use of Multi-Augmented. Plus 139 gives us 199, which I think fits perfectly fine. We don't have any sort of armor strip on this kit though, so I do use Gross Projection just to help her out a little bit compared to the Ensnare one, where enemies are grouped up and taking lots of crystal damage, so I don't really find this necessary here, but we do use it on this build specifically. Besides that, it is really just like median in a lot of stats, but still building for low efficiency with Blind Rage because she can do it, so there's literally no reason not to. The final synergy here is the use of a Panzerwolfaphyla, not only for viral priming, but for Synth Fiber, which allows you to pick up health orbs even at max health, which helps her passive and her energy economy.